What is it we're looking at when we look at Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The guy does so many things well. That's the key. That's why he's got such a high grade from Todd and others. He's got a lot of comparisons. Look, he rushed for 18 touchdowns. He's 6'6", 220, but he's a really good runner. Zone read was a big part of what they did down the goal line. That's Cam Newton type stuff. Now, how about Peyton Manning type stuff? Out of the shotgun, the ball handling, the ability to still be compact as he hits the tight end on the seam route before the safety can get over the top. That's Peyton Manning and Dallas Clark right there. You can see it. And then how about the subtle movement as a passer, like Tom Brady, free runner against Louisville back in 2019. Look at how good this is. The subtle movement, remaining a passer, again, ability to stay compact and throw an accurate ball, back end line, face mask or higher. That's exactly what you want to do. That last play against Louisville is you can't put together a teaching tape better than what you see right there. So the reason he's such a good prospect is there are so many aspects of what he's done that he's put on tape that it's like, yep, that's exactly how you should do it. He checks so many boxes. That's the on-the-field stuff. Todd was referencing, as were you, Greeny, some of the off-the-field stuff in terms of leadership. Look, all these guys, there's potential for it to not work out, but there's a lot that's telling you this seems like a can't miss.
Okay, fair enough. So let's leave that part of it there for the moment, Todd, because that's the easy part. I mean, Trevor Lawrence going #1 is the easy part. Now's where it gets complicated. You project that the first 4 picks in this draft will all be quarterbacks. Yesterday, Mike Tannenbaum, on this show, I want you to hear it, was making a point about all the other guys in this draft besides Trevor Lawrence. Here's what Tannenbaum said.
Zach Wilson from BYU couldn't beat Coastal Carolina and has had multiple injuries already. Trey Lance started 1 game at North Dakota this year. Justin Fields had a transfer from the University of Georgia to go to Ohio State, and depending on what games you look at, specifically Alabama, he struggled at times this year. And Mac Jones was a 1-year starter at Alabama with an all-star cast. So when you look at how you're going to improve your team, all 4 of those quarterbacks have massive, massive question marks.
And so I just would like to get your general thought before we start diving into them specifically, Todd. Do you agree that once you get past #1 here, there are big questions about all the other quarterbacks in the class?
I wouldn't say big, but there are questions. Trevor Lawrence is clearly #1, and as I've said before, there's a gap. And then after that, it's Zach Wilson if you're basing it purely on tape. The issue with Zach, 2 issues really. First, level of competition over the past year. And then durability. If you want to throw a third in, why wasn't he named a captain? There's some questions in scouting circles about his leadership. So those are the issues off the field. But in terms of tape, Zach Wilson is clearly, in my mind, the second best quarterback. Then you get to Trey Lance from North Dakota State. 1 game this year, playing at the FCS level, doesn't match up with what Justin Fields did in terms of the last 2 years playing at Ohio State and better competition. But then for Justin Fields, you're talking about Northwestern, Indiana, and Alabama, those 3 big games, completing 52% of his throws with 5 interceptions. So there's some issues there as well. And then Mac Jones, he was phenomenal. He started 4 games a year ago. This season, he was record-setting. But the problem is you look at the offensive line, you got 3 guys who are going to get drafted. You got a wide receiver in Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle early in the year, both going to be first-round picks, and Najee Harris at the running back spot is a first-rounder as well. So he had the best supporting cast of any quarterback in this group. So there's a lot of little things that you can pick holes at with these quarterbacks, but they're all talented, and I think all 5 will be starters in the NFL.
Yeah, fair enough. And no one is disputing that. I guess the point is that in the world in which we live today, are these guys being overdrafted? I'm not disputing that you're right, that they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, they're always overdrafted, Greeny. They're always overdrafted because of the position, right?
But expand on that thought, if you would, a little bit. And this particular group of guys, I mean, when you put together, I call it the McBoard. Yep. Trevor Lawrence put him in a different conversation. But when you put together the list of the best players in this draft, it's not going to look anything like your mock draft, right? Because those guys are not going to be the next best players in the draft.
I've got Micah Parsons, the linebacker, who's number 5 on my board, going 15 to New England because we've got 4 quarterbacks coming off the board right away, and then one offensive lineman to Cincinnati, Penei Sewell from Oregon, and then 3 wide receivers. So it just tells you what the game is today. And I think the most important aspect of this is to realize that, yeah, you want Carson Wentz, you want to lock in a veteran. Matt Stafford, we saw the huge deal that he had. Where's Deshaun Watson going to go if he leaves Houston? Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to leave San Francisco? But if you can get a quarterback that is a good starter in the league and you're only paying him $30 million and he counts this much against your cap versus that much against your cap, it's a huge difference, and it allows you to build around that position. And I think that's why so many teams are eager to draft a quarterback early and get him in for really good money.
Well, there's some fascinating situations in here. And again, it is one of the differences between the NBA and the NFL. In the NBA, they do the draft, then they do free agency. In the NFL, we have this whole quarterback carousel that's going to play out, Todd, as you are obviously well aware, before we get to all of that. Tim Hasselbeck, why are you sort of shaking your head here?
Well, I just kind of wanted to weigh in it. I think that, this next tier of quarterbacks, as Tannenbaum's, alluding to, and I think that it sounds like Todd agrees with it, I think it speaks more to who Trevor Lawrence is. It's more about Trevor Lawrence. It doesn't matter, what Daniel Jones really as good as people were saying he was at Duke because of the supporting cast. Is Kyler Murray tall enough? Is Dwayne Haskins played enough snaps in college? Same thing with Sam Darnold. Is Josh Allen accurate enough? Like most quarterbacks that get drafted in the first round, Lamar Jackson, the rawness of Patrick Mahomes, there's something where you're like, I'm not really sure about the guy. And I think you could go to all 32 teams, you could go to anybody that's evaluating it and say, is this a legitimate concern? And you would find some type of agreement. I think that's what really just makes Trevor so unique, much like it was for Andrew Luck. There really weren't any red flags on Andrew. Physically, he was there, he was smart, he was mature, he was strong, he had the ability, all of that stuff. Same thing with Trevor. I think this is more about Trevor being an outlier than the rest of these guys that are potentially drafted in the first round being guys that are being overdrafted, because in many ways they're similar in terms of how you evaluate them to other guys that have gone in the first round.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.